So I will kind of pick back up where I left off, even though I don't want to do this. I mean, I'm fighting it with every tooth and nail. I want to do it, but anyways. So this is part 11. And I think I left off at the beginning of 9th grade. So let me explain. This is also, not only is this the beginning of 9th grade, this is also me entering into teenagehood and kind of a new transition in life completely, I think, for every teenager. And when I moved to Jackson, we just had, as a family, we had to do a lot of new things, and we met new people. And so we started going to Pine Lake in Lexington, Tennessee, where I had lived years prior, where I'd lived off of Beach Lake. But we started going to Pine Lake, and I started to learn how to water ski. And when we changed new churches to First Baptist from Cumberland Presbyterian, we kind of shifted to a new group of friends, and that was Jessica's family and other families that went to the river. And I had already been introduced to them because of Jessica and me and her being good friends. So every time I've tried to write this book, and you'll understand why. I don't want to cry. You'll understand why later. But every time I've tried to start this book, for the most part, it's always had me, Jessica, and Katie Sigler. And so Katie Sigler and Jessica Austin, they had been best friends since before I even knew Jessica. They had grown up together. They were family friends. They had gone to rivers together. They have next door cabins to each other on Tennessee River. And I was acquaintances with Katie. And if you'll remember from a few times prior, the class of the 5th graders and 6th graders that were together that I saw Josh in, Katie was in that class as well. So I think that's right. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm okay with it. So with that being said, Katie and Jessica were really good friends, and so it just kind of, I rolled into it. Whereas I was outgoing and most likely outspoken, Jessica was outgoing and, I'm not going to say outspoken, but she would say her mind, and then Katie was really quiet and calm. But we were all good, sweet girls. And so we just would have fun on the river. And so in the 9th grade, Jessica and I were in cheerleading, and I was at Jackson Christian School, and Katie had gone to Jackson Christian School too. And so was Josh. Josh was there. And so this is where it stops becoming about me. So, and yet it still involves me. Man. I think sometimes we're just in awe and wonder of God and just how He puts pieces together. I'm probably going to end after this. So, my great-grandfather was Wilson. My grandfather was Wilson. They were from Jackson, Tennessee. Because of gymnastics, me and Jessica met, and then we became really good friends. And Jessica and Katie sorry, I'm just trying not to cry. Jessica and Katie were really good friends from childhood, and then us three just kind of became friends, and God had spoken to me extremely clearly about Josh and me marrying, and my first boyfriend being Kurt Holmes. And the thing is that Katie's dad, Mr. Brad, and Josh's dad, Mr. Jack, were business partners. They are business partners in Jackson, Tennessee, and they have a law office, and that building is called the Wilson Building in downtown Jackson, Tennessee. In a million years, I wouldn't have been able to make this up if I tried. So, Katie, Jessica, and I were all good friends, and we kind of grew up on the river together and going to school at Jackson Christian School. And we were just sweet young teenagers. And Jessica and I in the 9th grade grew very close. And then we probably were around each other so much that we just kind of went through some things. And I never asked anything about Josh. I just kind of would watch him from afar. What are you supposed to say when you're 12 and 13 and 14? Hey, God told me that we're supposed to get married, and I'm supposed to love you, and I've never really had a conversation with you. Most teenagers wouldn't respond. Well, most teenagers in the 90s at least would not respond. They'd look at you like you were weird, like you had a second and third and fourth head growing out of your body. But for whatever reason, I was quiet, and I would just kind of watch him. And Jessica and I were friends, and Katie and I were friends, and life just kind of continued on. So 9th grade came and went. I had a little boyfriend. I call him a little boyfriend, but I had a boyfriend, and that just kind of, and I mean nothing. And then 10th grade came, and by that point in time, Josh had a girlfriend. And I really liked her. She was a good friend of mine, or she was a friend of mine, and I liked her. And so I just watched quietly and lived life. And my family went through some tough things that year. I went through a massive range of probably puberty, and I started gaining weight, and I started getting boobs, and I went through a really weird, awkward phase. I didn't feel good about myself, but I had a strong core of girlfriends, and yeah. And so 11th grade came and went, and I didn't have any boyfriends. I just didn't. And Josh was still with Ashley, and And then my senior year came up. And I was still cheering this whole time and still highly involved in church. And I would watch Josh from afar, and he would play basketball, and I would watch him, and I would go to church functions, and I would wonder if he would be there. There was one, it was called True Love Waits. And it was talking about saving yourself for marriage, and we signed this contract promising ourselves to God until we got married. And I'm in it. And we had, I'm in it. And so we would spend the night at each other at I guess a person's house with a big group of people. And I remember wondering where he was, but he wasn't there. And so, but I signed the contract, and yeah. And so then my senior year came up, and his senior year had left, and he went to college. And I remember thinking or wondering and being sad because he wasn't going to be there. And I don't remember why. But the year prior, I had worked out with my, it was kind of after your pre-cheerleading class. And so you didn't have a class. Cheerleaders didn't have a class, and basketball players would practice during that time. It was the last class of the day. And the coach, we went into the workout room, and it was the coach of the girls' basketball team. And she just kind of was saying, well, let's do some physical activity, and let's do weights. And so we just kind of started lifting weights. And she said, okay, let's see who can leg press. I'd never done weights a day in my life. And so I remember Ashley getting on there and her doing it, and I remember someone else, and then it was my turn. And she just kept adding the weight. She added weights, I would press, she would add more. I would press, she would add more. I would press. And I don't even remember how much I did, but I remember I did a lot. And I remember them being really shocked. And like, holy cow, which I didn't think anything of it. And it was embarrassing to me because not only had I gained weight, but I had grown exceptionally. And I was the tallest girl in my group of friends, and I was bigger than everyone. And so I was always shrinking down to their size and kind of bending my knees so that I was their height. And I weighed more than everyone. And so out leg pressing someone, I just thought, no guy is ever going to want a thick girl who can out leg press them in weights. I hear things about my arms all the time. I struggle with getting in shirts and jackets because they're too tight because my arms, and it wasn't because they were fat. And so I had a weird complex. I didn't feel good about myself. It was nothing that anyone did or said. It was probably me more than anyone. So, I've probably bored y'all enough. And, I guess I'll leave off with, I was entering into my senior year. I had out leg pressed most of the football squad, and Josh had left and gone to college. And I, for whatever reason, I just remember being really sad about it. Not sad, just wishing he would come home to see me cheer. I don't understand it. I wish I did.